now we see Sarajevo. I actually never been in Sarajevo, even I lived a long time in Zagreb, capital city. I was just in Bihać in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I never traveled through Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I'm very happy that Nerka will tell us about Sarajevo. And Nerka, please don't forget about Cevapi.
Thanks. Thank you, Christina. Oh, hi, Igor. Igor, Christina.
Yeah, we want to hear where are best Cevapi in Sarajevo.
Hello, Igor.
Igor.
Hi, how are you guys?
Hi, Igor.
Nice to see you. I like now to see how it is in Sarajevo.
Yeah,
very good.
Yeah.
It actually, at the moment, it rains, but the city is great.
Okay, yeah. No problem. Cevapis are always good meal, you know.
Yeah, even if it is rain, doesn't matter.
Even in the rain. We will change the song. Instead of singing in the rain, we'll say eating in the rain.
Yeah, cevapi in the rain. Okay, Nerka, we will leave you, but you tell me more. Okay, thanks.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, Nerka, I hand it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And I hope this technical change will help everyone to understand what's going on, but it will work. I believe in David. He's genius. Thank you, David, in advance. And just go to the slide 1, please.
Yeah, we're on slide 1. Can you see slide 1?
This is the title slide. Just the next
slide 1. Okay, before we start, could I just say to people that we would like to record this, if that's okay with everybody? It's just sometimes people come and want the link afterwards, okay? So just give me a second and I'll start that. Hold on a second. And what I'll do is I'll take your directions in a second, okay, Nerka? Okay, so just give me a second to...
Okay, before you turn to the next one, I'll give the short introduction with this picture. The main building you see on the picture is the City Hall. It's famous building. It's pseudo-Mauryan style. The history of the building is interesting, but the saddest one, I would say, was that the whole building, which has been the university library, with a number of books, old books and memorials, everything in that, was burned down in August 1992 when the war started. You know, the war started somewhere in April, May 92. Then the building was burned down and everything, almost everything, all the books, artifacts and everything was burned. So this building, which has been reconstructed over decades, it took a time and took the moment to find the potential investor and find the money and interest in the people and everything around. And now it is not the university library anymore. Sadly, the people complain, but now it is the City Hall, beautifully arranged in the same style as it used to be before the war and a century ago. And I hope that video will work perfectly, so you will see it later on how it looks inside. And the building is really worth of seeing even now when you come over, any one of you. I'll go with you to show you the City Hall. The inside is now used first as a representing space for something important for the city government. They don't work there. They just use space for important meetings, for exhibitions. There is also Austrian ball. There, it is the copy of that Vienna ball in February, March, I think, if I'm not wrong. And the building itself is beautiful. From this perspective, when you look down at the river called Miljacka, you see what is interesting about the river, and what is important to know is that it is also the important part of the city with its histories. In the past, it divided the city in a separate parts of the city where have lived the different people. Some I would call the quarters of the city in 100, 200 years ago were called according to the major group living there. So it was the part of the city where Serbs lived, the part of the city where dominantly Muslim lived. It was not because they did not live together. It was just because they were coming one after another and building their houses around, collecting all together. But it's been always and still is multicultural, and always the people from all over the world, not just as a multicultural city in Europe or America and anywhere else. It's the way of living. It's Sarajevo itself, and even now, if people probably would ask what's going on after the war and how it goes, I'm telling you, and trust me, it is still the same city for the ordinary people. If you talk to the ordinary people and see how they live, it is the same. If you see politicians and modern times, which would be better not to talk about, it would be like we hate each other, but it's far from it. The Sarajevo lives as it used to live, and Sarajevo with their people, wonderful people, is what Sarajevo really has been. And I hope and believe and trust in it, Sarajevo will always be as it used to be. You see the bridges. Later on, I'll talk a little bit more about bridges on the river Miljacka. Miljacka is not a big river, but it's only one right here in the main part of the city, in the downtown. There are other smaller ones at the end of this river. You would be, how do you say this? Probably English word for it. You can find several others, but not important and not that big, like Miljacka. And even Miljacka is not that big. Then it meets Bosnia, the river, which is much bigger, and that's how it goes. But Sarajevo loves Miljacka, Miljacka loves Sarajevo. Anyone who comes to Sarajevo would always look for those bridges, and the history is by the river, at the banks of the river and surrounding buildings. So there is so much to see and so much to hear about the history of the city, just about the river and what the river means to the city.
Okay.
So,
do you want me to go to the next slide now?
Yes, please. There are some statistics just to tell you, for those that have never been. I did not ask you if there are any of you who really have been here in Sarajevo, in the city. But if few of you or none of you, you probably would like to know some basic information. The square kilometers you see, it's 51 to 100 square kilometers. In the brackets you see miles. The census 2013 said that we are 3 million, a little bit over 3.5 million people living. After the war, we've got 2 entities and 1 district. Now we have the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is 51% of the land, and almost 49% of Srpska, which is just the name. Republic is not republic, but it's called Republika Srpska. And the smaller one, which is district Brčko, there is a small city at the northeast of Bosnia. For strategic reasons, it is separate and it's kind of district, but it's less than 1%. Altogether should be around 3,500,000 something. Nobody definitely knows clearly how many of us are living there. And especially in recent years, there are many young people, especially leaving the country. So if we would count now, that might not be even 3,500,000, but who knows? So it is approximately the number. The people living here are Bosniak, Serbs, Croats, Jews, and others. Others meaning those that did not want to be declared as any of those listed before. As in the country we lived all together before, most of us did not say or did not feel it to say any special religion, belonging to any special nation or any special religion. We were used to say we are, at that time, Yugoslavenia or Yugoslavian people. Now we want to say we are Bosnian people, but the politics change it to to strict selection. Would that be Bosniak or Serbs? Bosniak equal to Muslim, Serbs, Croats, Jews, or whatever. There are many others. Religion, for those who are religious in country, have always been either Muslim, Orthodox, Catholic, Jews, and now there are smaller ones like Anglican Church or some of those, but not many people. Language, there is something interesting to know about the language in the region generally. When we were Yugoslavia, it was Serbo-Croatian. Later on, as each of those ex-republics separated into independent countries, we now have different languages, meaning Bosnia has Bosnian and officially also Croatian and Serbian. Since we are all living all together, it is equally, for the law, it is equally represented, but either you can speak Bosnian, Croatian, Serbian, whatever you like. But honestly, I don't know what would say my friends and colleagues from Bosnia, from Sarajevo, and from Croatia and other countries, but we understand each other perfectly. And in many aspects, it is almost the same language as it used to be. We call it differently now. There are small differences, but anyway, if I go to the coast, everyone understands me. I understand everyone. If I talk to Christina now, she understands me, and I understand her. If I talk to someone from Serbia and Montenegro, it would be the same. So in any case, if you come over, you just need to know that it's almost the same language in sense of understanding and speaking. I wouldn't go deeper in any other reason and what are the differences, but that's fine. In Bosnia, the currency is called convertible mark, which equals almost half of euro. And we have the currency board. That's the comment that Zoran made. I must say, Zoran said that Christina is speaking to him only in English. You don't speak to him in any other language. That's great. We can speak anything we like. I'm okay with everything. In our country, we have specific governance in terms of the finances. We have the currency board, which means we have fixed connections, fixed link to the euro, and it hasn't been changed in decades. It's always the same, that one convertible mark equals to approximately 0.2 euro. It's for those that are intending to come over, just to know when you exchange the money how it goes. What's the climate? As you can see at the left side map, Bosnia and Herzegovina is somehow in the middle of Balkan Peninsula, across Italy near Adriatic Sea. It means that we have influence of Mediterranean climate, and also, as you see on the right side map, the majority of the country is mountainous. That means that we also have that continental climate, and it's now the mixture of Mediterranean and continental. It used to be in winter time. It used to be very cold, and in the summer hot. As climate has changed everywhere, including in Balkans and in Bosnia, we don't have severe winters anymore. We don't have even that much rain, and it's getting more and more dry and hot. In the summer, it could be really, really hot. But you never know. Sometimes we have rainy June or rainy August, or overheating in September. Everything is possible. Just get ready and prepared. Since it is mountainous, there are flat areas. There is also 23 kilometers of coastal area, which is coastal line in the city of Neum, that belongs to Bosnia and connects us to the Adriatic Sea. It is really the small country with the wonderful diversity. You can see the different landscape. You can see completely different areas of the country. At the north, you see green areas, which means that these are fields, these are valleys, and the people usually practice and live with agriculture, and that's basically the job they've always had in that region. In mountainous region where Sarajevo is dominantly, you can see at the little bit to the right side where Sarajevo is located. It's exactly the combination of this mountainous and certain influence of Mediterranean climate. What Bosnia is known by is the water. There is real water abundance. It's ranked as the 5th country in Europe by the quantity of the water that we have in the country, of lakes, of springs, of rivers, everything. We have so many natural lakes and even more artificial lakes for power plants, and everything is occupied now. The people are trying to use those small, wonderful, clean waters for small hydropower stations, and local people don't like it. Everything is possible in years to come, but we are fighting back to see how we can preserve the nature as it is really beautiful and just stop them. I don't know how they got the concession and would they do that, but we are trying to save our rivers and the water. It is really the great, great, great benefit. We know, as well as Croatia, the benefit of location and abundance of the water. We have national parks. Among those are Sutjeska, Kozara, Una. Most of national parks are in mountainous region, and just Una, a beautiful river of Una, is the border between Croatia and Bosnia and Herzegovina at the western part of the country. The others are mostly mountains. It's interesting, we have the only European rainforest called Peruča, which is relatively close to Sarajevo. We have nature parks, beautiful places, and I hope even now you would be interested to see in real. David, please, the next one. As I mentioned before, the Bosnian landscape is occupied by the waters, different opportunities to enjoy it and exploit it. We have rivers, we have waterfalls. This is all you see now is natural. Waterfalls, rivers, some of them, like the picture top down, is even in the middle of the city, in the center of the city, called Jajce. It is also a lovely place. And this is natural waterfall of River Pliva. Anyone who comes to Bosnia should take a time and travel. You can do that by road, by bus, or 2-3 hours, and see that beautiful city. The very left one at the bottom is the natural park Kukovo Blato. That is in Herzegovina, the south of Bosnia and Herzegovina, close to Croatia border and Adriatic. That part is known by important location for migrating birds from the north, and different species, some of them very rare, endemic, and different fishes. And unfortunately, in recent years, it was burned on several occasions, and many parts of those beautiful, beautiful nature park simply disappeared. We hope it will recover somehow. Nature does it. Please connect to that YouTube video if you can. That's important. Since we don't have a music, I hope you don't mind if I comment some of those pictures. Would you like me to?
Yes, it would be great. Sure. Because beautiful places, but we don't know where we are.
David, well, okay, next time I will comment. Since there was a music that followed the video, and for some reason the music stopped, I did not want to interrupt the music, but I could talk when the music stopped. Anyways, we'll have another one as well.
So can you all see the screen? Can you see the screen again? No,
yes, just go to the next slide, please.
Okay, maybe we leave the YouTubes to the end, yeah? Because it's a bit technical funky.
Yeah, but I have a few more.
Okay.
What's interesting about Bosnia and the region generally, Balkans, it's been always the crossroad of Eastern and Western civilization throughout the history. Namely, the geographic location is such. There has been so much interest in the location, from big ones, small ones, migrations, and everything about it. It started when Bosnia and Herzegovina. No, it's not American culture. No, Zoran, it's not American culture. Trust me. Sorry, Zoran sent a message. The crossroad of Eastern and Western civilization is with influence on all the countries around throughout the Balkans, but especially in Bosnia, for some of those have been here centuries, and it's really unrealistic to expect that nothing has remained after them in this country. Now it's not the way some people expect, but the history and the artifacts and everything about the history that has been in this country, it's really interesting to see, to understand and try to see how it works now, how it applies to our normal life, and what it did to our lives today, what the past has brought us in. It started through the history as a Slavic migration first, but before Slavic people migrated, and we know that Slavics are Russians and all the down to Bulgaria and including the whole Balkans. Slavic people actually have come, but this was not the void space. They found already here some old tribes, Illyric, and some connections with the Romans and Rome. So the history did not start with Slavic migrations, but many of the people that are living now here, their blood and genes have the marks of all those influences. We used to say we are Slavic people, generally, as everyone else around in Balkans and the other countries, but there are many differences among us. And of course, in us, there is also the Turkish blood, the Austro-Hungarian blood, and even before Slavics, the people say we have some Celts blood in us. How it goes, who knows? I must admit that I'm not that good with history. History has never been I have never been at my best with history, but I hope you will forgive me. Yes, Nadia. You want to say something? I don't hear you, Nadia.
No, sorry. No, continue, please. I don't want to say anything. Continue.
You just raised your hand, so I expected you wanted to say something. Anyways, the first we are going to talk about as a history we've got from a lot was that first period, so-called Slavic, as our tribes from that time, which was also based on what we've had before it, with Romans, with Byzantine, Illyria, and all about that. We also had the kingdom and the kings, and there is a long history of kingdom in Bosnia and surrounding region, which of course did not look like completely like it is now, Bosnia as a country is now. But yes, Samra, you want to say something?
Yes, if you don't mind. I just wanted to add that history has never been kind to Bosnia whatsoever. We had so many wars, so many conquerors. It's amazing. As far as I know, first religion was Bogumil. It was present in parts of Serbia, Bulgaria, and Bosnia and Herzegovina. Then we had convergence of Romans, Byzantine, Ottoman, Austrian-Hungarians. So it's truly a mix of cultures that all these conquerors have brought to us. Back at you.
Thank you, Samra. Yes, that's true. That's very true. I'll go slowly through the periods, but just shortly. I don't think you would be interested that much in presentation at this particular moment about details. Anytime you come over, you can see the locations and see what is still remaining to be seen. On like those locations, I have on pictures, but there are some around Sarajevo as well, and there is a lot to see how it works in our past. The truth is that we've been influenced by many, and the truth is that we could not manage it perfectly to stop the people invading the country, invading the region. That's how it happened. And I'm not wondering, generally speaking, this is abundance of everything. It is really a rich country, rich in sense of resources, rich in geography, rich in water. The geographical location is interesting for the military, for the politics, for this and that, whatever. It goes even in nowadays to some extent, and that's how we live. We live with that, but we learned also to live and survived that way, to live all together through the times, bad and good times. So after Slavic period has come the Ottoman period that's been the longest, about 4 centuries. You can see the ages, the period, stopping in 1878 when Austro-Hungarian Empire has come. And that's the period which has left interesting things for the country, for the society, and for the way of living. David, please, next. The period when Ottomans lived here and governed the country the way they did is visible now in architecture, in the fact that we have 51% of Muslims living here, that we have something in our cuisine, in the meals we prepare, in literature, in music, in architecture. The first one that you see on the left picture is the old town, and this is the mark of the old town called Sebil. The water, it is actually the fountain. You can have a water there, and people sit around, people enjoy the place. Now it's used for spending the day. Slow motion is the way how we live generally, and people love to sit there and just watch around, take whatever, grab the drink, whatever it could be, or the coffee from the neighboring restaurants and coffee shops and whatever. That's also the way how Turks lived. And I think that remained in us from that period. I would say a little bit of mentality now. If you ask any Bosnian, that doesn't matter, is it Muslim or Serb or Croat now living in Bosnia, if you ask why something is going on or can you do that, answer would usually be no problem. Anything you ask, anything you look for would be no problem. I can't say that problem will be solved, but that's how we communicate with the people. Whatever you need, the answer would be no problem. I'll do that. Will it be done? Well, that's another issue. Just get used to it. The next, please, David. From that period is something interesting I would love to stress out. This is the Isabek Hamam. It is the photo from the building, how it looks like now. It's been reconstructed. It isn't 2-3 years, I think, and it is how it looks now. I believe they follow the original architecture and design, but this is reconstructed. Now it is the hotel and the hammam as well. What is important to say about it is that was the first public bath in Sarajevo. And that was the public bath in Sarajevo when none of those countries in the West, including famous kings and other important people that been important in 15, 16, whatever centuries, they did not have the bath. They did not even use it. It was so normal. There is a kind of, I wouldn't say fetish, maybe not the right word to say, but the water is so natural with us, with our way of living, and I can't even imagine that we don't have it. Even we had the situation that we did not have it during the war, but the water is so important in our lives, and we live with it, probably because we are spoiled with the abundance of the water everywhere in the country. Anyways, we've had bath when nobody else had it at that time, and since then till now, the water is everywhere. That's something from the that Ottoman period. The next. Of course, anyone who comes here can visit, can take a bath, can even stay in that hotel. It's now it is the hotel and the hammam or the bath. The next comes the Austro-Hungarian period. Next slide, please, David. Yes. The things changed. My pictures moved up, which was not expected, but doesn't matter. The things changed when Austro-Hungarian came over in the whole region, now moving a little bit more to the west, from Bosnia, Croatia, Slovenia, and of course Austria, Hungary, and all that towards the Central Europe. We benefit a lot from that period. It is visible in architecture, in some important religious sacral objects. As you can see, the cathedral on the left picture is from that period. The one which has moved a little bit on my presentation, this beautiful, beautiful building, is the Academy of Arts now. As far as I know, it's been at the beginning an Anglican church. But can you imagine such a huge building, just a church? I don't know at what time it changed and moved to the building that is now, but it is really the mark object in the city. You can see it from tram, you can see it walking, and everyone will say it is really a very special and beautiful building in Sarajevo. What is also interesting about Sarajevo is that we've got the first tram in Europe in 1884. Before Berlin, before Paris, before Vienna, we had the first tram at that time. Yes, it was horse tram, as you can see from old pictures, but we had it. So the city had its life, even with all those influences. We took from all of them something good. We could not choose and stop bad things that were happening as well. And that also influenced us. But there are so many good things that we've got from probably from Austro-Hungarian period. We started with development of the industry, with railways, with roads, electrifications. That was really advanced, and that was the period of progress for the whole region of Balkans, especially for us. It stopped with the famous, and I guess you all know what happened before the World War First. That's for some reason people say that's the reason. That's how the First World War started. Anyways, when you read the documents and history, and if you can talk to the people who are really relevant people, historians, or you look into the records, you will see that was, of course, not the only reason why the First World War started, but that's what people say. On June 28th, a very young man, Serb man, who was the member of one organization, he assassinated the Crown Prince Ferdinand, Austro-Hungarian Prince Ferdinand, and his wife Sofia. Formally, we have that year as the end of the period of Austro-Hungarian Empire here. Anyways, when the war started and became the World War, things changed globally. So even with that assassination, or without it, I believe the situation was such that that war would start sooner or later. Anyways, that's the history about Sarajevo and the periods of direct influence of the others. After the war, we had another period which I'm not quite familiar with to tell a lot about it, but that was the kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenians, and some Bosnia was just dragged in. I would say that was the black hole of the history of all of us, not just Bosnian. That was not the period to be happy about. It passed as well as everything else goes, the life goes on. The Second World War is not even interesting for the touristic reasons. You can find some facts and you can even see some buildings, but not much about it, as more of the war we've got from the latest one from 1992, 1995, which is also something that tourists found now as a different picture than we who have witnessed it. It looks different to us, especially the people in Sarajevo. I have moved to Sarajevo in 2005. I was not born here and I did not live here during the war. My hometown is 75 kilometers far from Sarajevo and I lived there. But the life in Sarajevo during the war period, the latest one, was really terrific, or was hard to stand. And probably Samra or someone who eventually lived during that time can say more about it. I can't even imagine how people survived, but I have several facts on it. So David, please go to the next one. Now we can switch to Sarajevo, which was the reason to meet over here. I hope you did not mind having some information about country as such. I'm finding it interesting and a beautiful nature to see. Sarajevo is a canton, one of 10 cantons in Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, which I said is 51% of the entire land. Sarajevo canton is not the largest one, but the most important in a way because the capital is there. That's the reason why Sarajevo canton has a specific role in the country. And in square kilometers, it is 1,276, leaving 275 approximately, roughly, the people living right in the city. And the canton, which includes the several other municipalities, the canton itself is 413. Anyways, Samra, please correct me if I'm wrong. As far as I know, before the war, Sarajevo itself had about 400, between 350 to 400 people living here in the city. As you can see, some of them were killed during the wars. Many of them left the city, and even now people are leaving, not just Sarajevo, they are leaving other cities in the country, and that the number is changing.
I'm sorry, I believe that number before the war actually was higher. It was closer to 500,000.
Maybe greater Sarajevo, but city itself probably around 400 or 350. The narrow part of the city, just the city. Like now is Sarajevo with 4 municipalities, but you may be right, you lived here. Yeah, somehow it shrink. It's not that many people as it used to be, but the city is growing. So we'll see who will live here, since there are many more buildings and less people. We'll see how it's going to work. Average altitude is 500 meters, but it differs. There are parts that are lower and there are parts that are higher than 500. Sarajevo itself is considered as the city in mountains. 500 means something. So it's when you see the winter and mountains around, for Sarajevo is in a depression surrounded with mountains. Many of them were Olympic mountains from 1984. 1984, we've had Winter Olympic Games here, and Sarajevo since then is known as Olympic City. So it wouldn't be if Sarajevo is not a mountainous in general.
May I add one thing that's interesting when we were talking about the Olympics? It was the first time ever that Olympics were held in a communist country. So Sarajevo's 1984 Olympics were the first Olympics ever held in a communist country at the time.
Anyways, I remember that Mr. Samaran at that time said we've had the best ever, by that time, best ever organized Olympic Games. And there is an anecdote, maybe Samra, you can tell about the snow and the day when the Olympic Games started.
Olympics started, I believe, sometimes in February. I cannot remember.
8th of February.
8th of February.
Yes.
Till the 7th of February, there was no snow.
Yeah, at all.
In the night of February 7th to 8th, we had a huge snowfall, which was really great.
Yeah, otherwise people would think what to do with the Olympic Games in such a situation. Okay, here we start with Sarajevo. Please, David, try with this Sarajevo it is video. There's also music.
Oh, I can see I could have seen my house from the beginning.
Good.
Nerka, please tell us what we're looking at. Please, that will be interesting.
If there will be no music, I will. This is also Sebil, the fountain I mentioned before in Baščaršija old town. These are small shops and in the same part of the city. Old crafts. That's all the downtown. We have all those old crafts, small shops. That's the touristic area. Oh, this is interesting. When we saw that in our news, we really wondering where that was registered or recorded, and then we were told that some movie was was screened at that time. This is the cathedral. This is Orthodox Church. This is the Jewish temple. And this is the place where formerly the East meets West. We have an airport, of course. Oh, there's the food. Here we go. Igor, here it is.
Yum.
This is so-called pita bread, or we call it somun, and it's used for cevapi. Cevapi is the meat with spices. Rolled, it is mice meat. It is rolled with spices, and barbecue is the only way how we make it. We eat it with the onion, with chopped onion, and if someone likes, with sour cream, not necessarily, and drink yogurt if the person likes it. That's how it goes, but you can choose your way. Everyone is interested to taste it. Everyone. This is the spring of River, Bosnia. This is the nature park. Beautiful place. That's the place. That's the water used to be so clean, so you could drink it. But now we have some problems with it. This is Sunnyland. This is something new in the nearby Trebević Mountain. People try to use what they've got from the nature and enjoy different sports now. This is from the Olympic Games opening, the big stadium. You see what young people do in mountains, different sports. We are not famous with this sport, but we are just trying. And this is our mayor, the first one. This cable car, we've got it 2 years ago. We had it before, but it's been damaged during the war, and now it's a new one. We have a small golf course. You can ride the horses. It is not in a city, but it's nearby. Place called Rakovica. That is the city hall. That's that famous Austrian ball. This is the film festival we have in August, Sarajevo Film Festival. It's been already 27 years that we have it. It is a really great place, great time to come city enjoy the festival. This was, as every year, New Year's Eve. This is our famous singer. And 2 years ago, he had a concert for the New Year's Eve. Play yards are now everywhere. There are many kids around. There is a famous there are several video clips called "Enjoy Life in Bosnia," and those clips have filmed the different aspects of life in Bosnia and part of it in Sarajevo. So "Enjoy Life" is somehow speaking of us as a people. We are really that kind of people. Doesn't matter who we are. Is it any of us, Muslim, Serb, Croat, and the others, as we used to say? We are the people who enjoy life. And the way we are living is a little bit different than it's used to be in Western countries. We are somehow slow, and we are not rushing up in anything, and don't push us. That's not how we live, and we don't like it. Of course, we understand that life now is different, that we can't afford it anymore. But if we can, it would be immediately slow motion and sitting somewhere and soaking up the sun, have some drink. Unfortunately, a lot of people smoke. That's how we live. And anyone who comes to the city and to the country recognize it as something different. And after a few days visiting different places, usually they say, at least my visitors, they usually say, oh, well, I'd love to live such a life. That's not bad at all. That's a good way of living. But the wondering is, how do you survive people? Where do you make money? How do you make money if you can live the way you live, what we see in the streets? Well, that's another wonder of the whole country, but I wouldn't talk about it at the moment.
My husband says that there are 2 smoking sections in Sarajevo. Smoking and heavy smoking.
Only those 2, smoking and heavy smoking.
Okay, Mirka, it's 7:30. Are you almost at the end? Because you're not going to have time for questions.
Yes, we can go to a few more slides and that's it. Probably 5-10 minutes more and that's it. Please, David, the next slide. This is the starting one. Sarajevo bridges. Just this is the beginning where we can see beginning of the river which comes into the city from Republika Srpska, and slowly but steadily it goes one after another, all the new bridges. You can see now the bottom right one. It is that Academy of Arts, and behind is the newest bridge over the river, which is called Festina Lente. It's interesting that some students from Academy have designed it, and the whole bridge was built based on their design. It is the newest one, and it's really different from all the others. For the others are from different periods, and it took a long period that we did not have anyone new. Then came the Festina Lente bridge, which is obviously completely different than the contemporary bridge. So that there are bridges, and for each of those there is a story, but I leave it for all of you when you come over to hear the story of each of those. And the bottom left one is the place called Latin Bridge, and next, right at the end of the bridge, is a location where the assassination happened in 1914. There is a museum behind, but you will see in real, I believe. The next slide, 11. This is something interesting. I guess you would be interested to know what it is. All the shells and missiles that landed in Sarajevo have left the marks on asphalt, on land, on buildings, on everything. And after the war, the government decided, and some NGOs decided, that would be interesting and important to put the marks on it, to remember. They are called Sarajevo Roses. For the Sarajevo was the city under the longest siege in the modern history ever, which lasted 1,425 days. Almost 14,000 people killed, out of it 1,600 children, with snipers, shells, and all about the war. It is really crazy for those that have never lived during the war period in Sarajevo. They probably can't even imagine how it was. Samra probably knows, but there was a day, I think it was July 93, Samra, was it? Some July 93, when they had in one single day 3,777 missiles and shells sent to the city. Can you imagine how the people survived at that time and that period, and how many marks with roses would be in the city?
By sheer desire to live and be normal. I remember one comment from foreigners that you could spot them because they were looking like the people should be looking in the war. Sarajevans were clean, ironed. Don't ask me how. No electricity, no running water, no food, nothing. But it was, I don't know, sheer desire to live.
Since there was no water, it helped to get more killed people in rows waiting for the water, looking for the food, looking for woods to have something for heating, and all that lasted for so long just produced the high numbers that nobody can even believe. The next, please. What is Sarajevo known by is also Sarajevo Haggadah. If there is any Jews in a group, I'd love to hear from. What do you know about Sarajevo Haggadah? That is, Haggadah itself has been the Jewish codex, very colorful, illuminated, and brought to Europe, not just first to Sarajevo, brought to Europe from Spain when Jews had to leave Spain in 15th century. We have the Jewish...
Sorry. Actually, Sephardic Jews moved to Bosnia and were welcomed by the Ottomans at the time in the 14th century, running away from Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah, that was the end of 14th century, and probably is better to say that they live with us over 500 years. That's approximately the period how we have Jews living in Bosnia, especially in Sarajevo. And they brought that Haggadah with themselves. And sometimes at the end, some period in, as you can see, 1894, they sold. There was a family, Cohen, I think Cohen was the last name. They sold the Haggadah to the Zemaljski Muzej or National Museum of Sarajevo. It is still there. And since it is so old and so important and so thin in a paper, we can see it only by one day, 4 times a year. Nobody can come and see the original anytime we want, or any tourist might want to. There is always a copy, but the original is available to the public only 4 times a year by one day. It is interesting, and it is in a museum. I know that there was a story that some other big museums were interested to buy it from our museum, to have it at their museums, but we never wanted to sell it, and I'm so happy we didn't. There is something very special, and Jews living here would say that they really appreciate that we did not sell it, and that they have it with themselves in Sarajevo and in Bosnia. The number 13, please. What is also Bosnia's story is Bosnia's Stečak. There are a few. The nearest to Sarajevo is to Zgošća, which is near the smaller city Kakanj. It is like 40, I guess, kilometers far from Sarajevo. And those collected at that location. We can see now in front of the faculty and the building of government. So those called stečak were actually from medieval tombstones, medieval period, Bosnian period, and it is under the UNESCO protection in recent few years. The medieval state of Bosnia lived differently than any of those I mentioned before. It was very specific. It was kingdom, and people spoke a different language, wrote the different letters. It was named Bosančica, and they were not, that was a specific Bosnian church, not even Catholic, not Orthodox, not any of those we know now, but Bosnia was in a way independent and ever since a stubborn. That's what we have in our character even now. So stečak is something very specific and protected in, not just in Bosnia, but most of them are in Bosnia. There are some in Montenegro and Serbia. Next. This is also something very Bosnian. Like in Portugal, you have a fado, which I love. We have our sevdah and the song and the music called sevdalinka. This is very specific way of singing and a specific melody. You will hear, it is just 2 minutes. Please click on it, David, so we can hear. Do we not have a sound on?
No, we don't have a sound.
It's okay. We don't have sound and we're running late, so let's skip it. It's so we have time for questions and discussion. Let's skip it.
I'm so sorry. It's such a good music. Okay, if you cannot make it, skip it. And there are just 2 more. The next one is also something very Bosnian, which is Bosnian lily, endemic plant. We have it in mountains around Sarajevo. We had it on our flag for some period after the war, not anymore. And it's so specific and so beautiful. And when you say lily, you always think of Bosnia, as that specific lily is not growing anywhere else. The next. I just wanted to say that there are some things we can call just Bosnian things. And please turn this video on. It is important. This is the last one. This is Sarajevo. This is Eternal Flame, the place in memorial to the Second World War and the winners. This is City Hall. This is how it looks inside. Now we'll see more slides. There was also music. I'm so sorry you can't hear that. This is the post office, also from Austro-Hungarian. There's the Academy of Arts. This is Music Pavilion. That was the gallery. This is Old Town. This is Sebil, the fountain. These are all crafts. This is touristic area. Everyone buys something here. This is the mosque, the biggest mosque in Bosnia. Begova Jamia on Beg's Mosque. This is the cathedral, Orthodox Church. It is within a few hundred meters of airline, air distance. We have all of them.
It's within 500 meters that you have Orthodox church, Catholic cathedral, synagogue, and a mosque.
This is Terhadia, the central street, pedestrian street. The left, the building on the right side, yellow one, is University of Economics, which I was there. I attended. This is Wilsonovo šetalište. This is the walking zone, recreational and walking zone. I live nearby. This is the University of Economics. This is burek, the pita with meat. This is cevapi. This is baklava. That specific one is more with pistachio, more Turkish version of baklava. We make the different one, but baklava is popular. This is Hotel Europa. Yes, people, Muslims drink beer. If someone tells that there is no beer here, that's not true. This is the city center. This is also the old city. People usually buy this as souvenirs. That's the museum with Haggadah, National Museum or Zemaljski Muzej. It is a Bosnian mentality that we make jokes. This is Tečak. We make jokes of everything we live with. And the whole video here is just probably you're wondering why is it in a negative way. Any title you see is a negative, but there is a point at the end. This is also in the museum, National Museum.
Wow.
A lot to see in Sarajevo, really. With such a history we've had, it's expected to find so much things to see, different things, sometimes unexpected to see together, but there are. And that all that together is somehow in our genes now as well, in our mentality, in a way how we approach the life. You see artifacts even from medieval Bosnia, from the period that was not, you couldn't see in buildings that period. But we lived, even in the history of Bosnia is tracing back to the Roman period. And this is new cable car. It takes just 7 minutes to reach the first mountain above Sarajevo, which is Trebević, and it's a perfect walking zone. Just 7 minutes, imagine. From the city center, from Old Town, you go to mountains. That's the hotel over there. This is again Bosnia Spring, Vrelo Bosne, named in our language. A lot of water everywhere. That's Bosnia.